Hello and welcome to another episode on Maritime Radar. Port operations and development in Nigeria started mid of the 19th century in an effort towards providing facilities for ocean-going vessels. The Lagos Lagoon was opened in 1909 as the Apapa port in the southwest was earmarked for development in 1913, and the construction of the first 4 deep-water berths of 548.64 meters at the port began in 1921. Showcasing the role ports play in connecting nations, trades, and economies are issues that will be on the front burner on today's show. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. The Nigerian Port Authority was established as a continuous public corporation by the Port Act of 1954 to address the institution's weakness and bordered on lack of coherent policy framework as port development were done on ad hoc basis driven by changes on the level and demand of seaborne trade. The federal government of Nigeria in 2003 initiated a drive towards improving efficiency at the port, and the landlord model was adopted for all the Nigerian ports. This gave rise to the concession of 25 terminals with lease agreements ranging from 10 to 25 years. In order to reorganize the port, the former 8 ports were reduced to 6, namely the Lagos Port Complex, Tinkan Island Port Complex, Calabar Port, Rivers Port, Onne Port Complex, and Delta Port Complex. Before we get further into today's lineup on the program, let's find out the latest in maritime news.
Nigeria's Federal Executive Council has approved just over 510 million naira for the Nigerian Ports Authority (NPA) for construction and supply of customized fire service search and rescue vans for use at Rivers Port, Lagos Port Complex, Tinkan Island Port, and at the NPA headquarters in Lagos. The Minister of Transportation, Muazu Jaji Sambo, said the NPA wanted to award a contract for the construction and supply of customized fire service search and rescue vans for extrication of accident victims for the ports in Port Harcourt and Lagos. FEC considered the memorandum and approved the award of the contract, which is expected to be completed in 9 months. Snake Island Integrated Free Zone, strategically located in the main harbour of Lagos, has been listed as an active member of the Africa Economic Zones Organization. The AEZO is an association of leading African economic zones and institutions in charge of developing, managing, and promoting economic zones. With members across 42 countries on the continent, the body facilitates cooperation between member zones and government institutions to achieve strategic social economic objectives. Commenting on the milestone, the managing director, Snake Island Management Company, Semiyu Akorede, noted that in the past 2 decades, free zones have played a critical role in Africa's economic growth. Established in the year 2005, the Snake Island Integrated Free Zone has substantially contributed to Nigeria's free zone scheme. The International Maritime Organization's Secretary General, Kaita Klim, has received updates on the Black Sea Green Initiative in a meeting with Abdullah Abdul Samad Dashi of Kuwait, the United Nations coordinator for the Black Sea Green Initiative. The initiative, originally signed in Istanbul on 22nd July 2022, has been extended for the second time. During the first 2 terms of the initiative, some 25 million metric tons of grain and foodstuff were moved to 45 countries, helping to bring down global food prices. Secretary General Lim raised the concerns of the IMO membership with regard to some 60 vessels not covered under the initiative, which are blocked in Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov since the start of the conflict. A sub-regional workshop on the safety of domestic vessels and passenger ferries was held in Kampala as part of the International Maritime Organization's work to establish effective global safety standards for domestic passenger ferries. representatives of maritime administrations and shipping companies from Kenya, Malawi, South Sudan, United Republic of Tanzania, and Zimbabwe attended the workshop. The workshop recommended the use of the IMO model regulations on domestic ferry safety. These were adopted by the Maritime Safety Committee in April 2022 at its 105 meeting because of concern about poor passenger ship safety records and unacceptably high loss of life on domestic voyages in some countries, covering issues such as certification, manning, safety management, navigation, communications equipment, and life-saving appliances. The model regulation provides framework provisions on domestic ferry safety for incorporation into national law. It is thought that globally, around 95% of ferry-related fatalities occur on domestic voyages.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here, News Central TV, the stories that put Africa first.
If you are just joining us, this is Maritime Radar. The Nigerian Port Authority's function is to operate and supervise the ports in Nigeria. I spoke to a thoroughbred professional and the unassuming 27th NPA boss, Mohammed Bello-Koko, on his achievements since he assumed office and his plans for 2023. Stay with us. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I would say you came prepared, looking at the sterling achievements in a short while. Which one is the most fulfilling for you?
For me, what's most fulfilling is seeing that we have improved efficiency in the ports. We've also been able to reduce cargo dwell time and vessel waiting time. We've also been able to improve our revenues. So when you look at it, these three things are really most fulfilling. Because our responsibility is that of trade facilitation. And by improving efficiency at the port, it means that we are facilitating trade better and faster. And that has happened in the last 1 year or so.
Posting unprecedented revenue has been one of your sterling achievements. What's the magic word?
So, yes, we have improved revenue really from about barely 280 billion in 2019 to about 317 in 2020. By 2022, we have improved and increased revenue to about over 360 billion. And we've been able to contribute from about 80 billion in 2021. We have now contributed about 91 billion in 2022. Now, what we have done was to improve on our collection mechanism. We tightened the collection method. We also ensured that there are no leakages. We also made sure that we collected our revenue at the time it should be collected. We reduced all those liabilities. We have had instances where the shipping companies, terminal operators, and so on and so forth were owing, and then sometimes some of those debts turned to bad debts. We also held port managers accountable for revenue collections, and of course we commended them when they do that. So the collection mechanism was improved, and then we looked for other sources of revenue. In recent times, we have had a lot of jetties coming on, off-dock location activities, barge operations, and so on and so forth. So we looked at how can we improve revenue, where can we find that revenue, where are those leakages, we blocked those leakages, and The staff have also been tremendous in assisting and ensuring that we improve our revenue.
You have mentioned trade facilitation as one of your key achievements. Share with us your committed efforts in advancing trade facilitation.
So you find that one of the most important things, first of all, is to have a stakeholder engagement in whatever you do. That way you understand where the gaps are, where the problems are. Our responsibility is to ensure smooth port operations. People should be able to bring in their cargo, clear it, and then also if it is exports, they should be able to do that easily. So we have worked with various government agencies to ensure that this is done adequately, properly, and faster also. So we have better relationships with Nigerian customs. We have engagements with the Shippers Council. Nneoma also is a stakeholder within the maritime industry. One thing with the maritime industry is that it has various and diverse stakeholders. You need to engage them and work with them.
One of the things that is dear to your heart and one of your achievements, it's been improving increased patronage in the Eastern Port. Can you tell us more? What are the expectations that we should expect towards the Eastern ports?
So the Eastern ports, each of them has its own diverse problems. So what we simply did was to dissect and see what are the problems. Apart from giving tariff relief and rebates to some of the shipping lines in some of the ports in the East, we also looked at, okay, what can we do to endear shipping lines and owners of liners to get into the ports? And one of it is to improve efficiency. So we purchased and deployed a lot of marine equipment to the Eastern ports. And some of the terminal operators have gone ahead to start developing stacking areas, the size of the stacking areas, buying newer equipment, and so on and so forth. We worked with them to do that. What West African Container Terminal has done that in One, PTOL is doing that in Rivers Port, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we keep letting Nigerians understand that there are ports in other parts of the country. It's not just Lagos, Apapa, and Tinkan ports. There are other ports in the country that they can use.
If those ports, Eastern ports, are being used, you know, as much as it should be used, I think it will reduce gridlock in the Lagos ports. So what are you doing to ensure that people have faith and you know, and move their goods via the Eastern ports?
So you see, an importer, a consignee, is the one that decides where to take their cargo to. And of course, everybody will go to a port that it's ready to do business. But the ports in the East have some issues. For instance, the port in Warri, that's in Delta.
Okay.
It has practically one of the longest channels, over 100 kilometers from the fairway buoy to the port itself. And then, of course, you need to dredge it from beginning to the end. But the breakwaters has collapsed over 10 or 15 years ago, and it needs to be reconstructed. It's one of the things we are working towards. Also, there is insecurity there. The vessels can't, you know, leave berth or leave the port after a certain time. We have the same problem. Also in One and Rivers Port, where after 4 o'clock, the captains are not able to take the vessels out of the port because of insecurity. Then, of course, the ports are very old. They need to be rehabilitated. We are working on that, you know, but what is most important is we have a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan to ensure that the ports are working. And then, so we are ensuring that the short-term plans are being executed. We are now in the medium-term plans that would ensure that we provide necessary amenities and other equipments to ensure that the ports are viable. And we are already beginning to see an increase in cargo traffic. For last year, One Port, actually year to year, in terms of increase in cargo traffic, One Port is the highest and the fastest growing port in terms of cargo throughput vis-a-vis as against 2021. And we are also beginning to see increase in businesses in other ports in the eastern part of the country.
Building decaying port infrastructure has also been one of your dreams. And one of them you want to reconstruct is the Tinkan port complex. So how far have you gone in that project?
So it's not just Tinkan that we want to reconstruct.
Okay. You also mentioned some of this you are doing in the eastern ports.
Yes, so yes, Tinkan, it's actually long overdue. What we have been doing over time, what MPA has been doing is palliative reconstructions and remedial jobs, and it's no more tenable, it's no more viable really, it's not economical. And I think it is time that we reconstruct these ports.
So how do you intend to get the funding?
So There are two options.
Okay.
Now, NPA contributes about between 80 to 90 billion to government every year. So the first option is to go to government and say, can we get an approval to apply 50% of the amount we are transferring to the Consolidated Revenue Fund to start the construction of the port. The second option is to actually lend and get multilateral lending agencies to borrow money from. We're exploring both options. We have been in discussions with some of these agencies, and Afri-Exim, we are about signing the term sheet for the loan. The loan will be used for reconstruction of Tinkan. Tinkan is over 40 years old, is decaying, and as a matter of urgency, we need to reconstruct it. We need to reconstruct some part of Apapa Port also. The collapsed water in Escravos, the collapsed breakwaters in Escravos, we need to reconstruct that breakwater. And then there are two jetties in Calabar Port that we need to reconstruct. In Rivers Port also, we need to reconstruct one of the jetties. In One also. So virtually in each of the ports, we have identified infrastructure that needs to be reconstructed. We are looking for about $800 million if we are going to reconstruct this. The third option is to go to local banks in Nigeria and borrow money in Naira, which of course for me would have been the best option, but is the interest rates we need to discuss. We are also, rate sensitive. We need to ensure that we get the loan at the right cost, also interest rate. So these are the three options, and I believe that we should be able to get to the end of this very soon. Our target is to start reconstruction as soon as possible. So for Afri-Exim, the template, the term sheet is already being signed. With the local banks, we've started holding meetings with them so that there will be syndication. And then if government approves, we can take the other option.
Building decaying infrastructures in the port are the issues we are talking about here. We'll go on a short break. When we return, Maritime Radar continues. Stay with us.
New Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the New Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on New Central's social media platforms. New Central, Africa first.
If you're just joining us, this is Maritime Radar, and I still have with me Bello-Koko. He is the MD of NPA. Before we went on that break, you were talking about the building infrastructure, decaying infrastructure, and I must say you have good plans on how to execute that. And we'll move to the menace of trackers and resulting gridlock in the port access route. I know there's an e-collop system and all that. So what more? You will agree with me that we still have this gridlock at the port access route. So what more do you want to do aside the e-collop? Maybe a permanent solution.
Well, so first of all, we can all attest to the fact that the e-collop system, that's the ETO, is actually working. Initially, people had said it's not going to work, but it has worked. To a very, very large extent, it has reduced the gridlock. Now, where we have issues, first of all, is the multiple illegal checkpoints along the port corridor. You've got so many of them. You wake up in a day, you find 20, 30 checkpoints that are illegal and so on and so forth. So working with Lagos State government and the police and other government agencies, we are ensuring that that stops. Because you see, for every truck stopped along the road for a few minutes, it creates backlog of trucks waiting to move on. What we have decided to do is to go on each of those routes. That's the road leading to Tinkan and the one leading to Apapa, and identify locations that we will brand as locations we allow checkpoints. So that way, if we identify, let's say 10, I'm just giving an example,
Okay.
we will checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, and 10, and probably even put a canopy or something there. So it therefore means that any checkpoint outside those locations
Okay.
is illegal.
Okay.
We are also working with Lagos State government so that both LASMA, we're working with Federal Road Safety Commission themselves too should tell us who are the officers working every week of the month. That way, if there is an incident, we know who is
to hold
who
responsible.
who else to hold responsible. And then, of course, we have NPA security officers who are also involved in this. We will also hold them accountable. And once the roads are better in terms of, you know, and
The bad spots.
Yeah, the bad spots, we believe that most of these problems would go. Let's accept that the size of both Tinkan and Apapa can never increase. Each of the ports is operating far beyond its installed capacity. So what we are trying to do is to manage the cargo. And then managing traffic also depends on how quickly the vessel comes in, how quickly the terminal operators are able to discharge the cargo, and how quickly we're able to clear cargo also. And that's where you have responsibilities of other government agencies that could also affect this. For instance, we need the customs to reduce the time it takes for them to scan a container, to inspect a container. It should be in minutes, if not in minutes, at least in not an hour or 2 hours or a day or two. So the faster we can get the customs to do that, the faster everybody will be able to clear their cargo. We need to reduce human interference in everything we do. So I'm glad that the Nigerian customs have installed scanners at the ports. We are beginning to see improvement, and I'm sure there will be much more improvement. This government has spent a lot of money and paid attention towards improvement of efficiency, increased efficiency at the ports also. And we are working with Nigerian customs to see that. For us, on our part, we are trying to ensure that most of our processes are automated also. When you automate systems, you will reduce human interference. So we are working with the IMO to ensure that we deploy the port community system where all the stakeholders would log in, share information, reduce the number of documents and forms one needs to fill up. And then that will be a platform whereby the national single window will be deployed.
Wow. Export will change our production and economy. You've done great with the 10 export processing terminals to eliminate delays and more. So tell us what more we should expect, because we need to do more, because if export, we change our production, we need to do more because we are import dependent. So what more in 2023 will you be doing on export? So
the first thing is we were required to set up export processing locations within the terminals. But just like I just finished saying, the sizes of the ports really is constrained. And that's why we came up with the idea of setting up export processing terminals outside the port locations. The essence of the export processing terminals is for people to be able to bring in their agro produce that we are starting from. They should be able to, you know, sort it there, test it, certify it, package it, containerize it, and then the container should be sealed and sent directly to the port for export, for unloading onto a vessel and export. This will reduce the amount of time it takes to process our exports. This will reduce incidences of wastages of agri-produce that are supposed to be exported out of the country. We have licensed 10 of them, and I feel we shouldn't go beyond that, because out of the 10, first of all, we decided that it should be just Nigerians. Nigerians should be, so we advertised for expression of interest. And our interest was to get Nigerians to develop capacity and be able to get into this business. Out of the 10, about 4 are ready. Actually, 2 have kicked off or about to kick off on the 1st of April. They've started, you know, test runs and so on and so forth. The Nigerian Customs has also set up an export desk and posted a senior officer to do that. Now, we have also informed the other export processing terminals. After a certain period, if you do not meet the final criteria and all that we need you to install, you're not able to install it, we will cancel the provisional license and then allow other Nigerians to show interest. But if after a while Nigerians are not able to meet up, then we have no option than to open it to other foreign investors. Now, when we get these export processing terminals up and running and working, I promise you that this will improve exports in the country as it relates to speed of processing, loading onto the vessels and all that. We have also insisted that the shipping lines must inform the terminal operators and the export processing terminals how many export containers each vessel will be taking before it leaves. That way it helps us to plan and know how many containers, export containers, should go onto the vessel. And not long ago, we have had instances where shipping lines were leaving exports from Nigeria and carrying empty containers because Asian countries were looking for empty containers. And we will not accept that. And we have written to them. And we will ensure that whoever does that, we penalize them. We cannot, give preference to export of empty containers. Against Nigerian exports. We need those exports to go. So we'll keep looking at this and ensure that this is done properly.
Before I let you go, you said you are in your midterm goals. So what are the expectations for 2023? Quick expectations for 2023.
So for 2023, the deployment of the port community system in full, deployment of VTS, that is the vessel tracking system. A lot of countries have it, Nigeria does not have it. It gives us we'll be able to know wherever the vessel is, whoever comes into the channel, and so on and so forth. We will start reconstruction of the quays along in the ports also, we'll do that. And then we'll also ensure that we improve security along the channels. We believe that reconstruction of the escravos, breakwaters will start also within the year. So these are the things we're doing.
I must say well done in all that you are doing, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
It's been Mohammed Bello-Koko. He is the Managing Director, Nigerian Port Authority. I must thank you most kindly for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
This is Africa. I bet you've heard a lot about it. But this is what you need to know. It's the home of the youngest and fastest growing population in the world. This, my friend, is opportunity right here. This is the future, and everyone wants Africa's attention. You need a voice that's African, young, conversational, a platform with the potential to reach millions of people across the continent with content they can relate to, such as lifestyle shows, sports and news, just the way they love it. Imagine all the people you could be talking to on News Central TV. Well, don't just think about it. Contact us for sponsorship and advert bookings. Put your brand where Africa is watching. It's News Central TV.
And that's our show this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. Every week, join us on Maritime Radar as we explore how Africa can make a difference in ensuring the development of the maritime sector. You can also expect the latest in maritime news and industry insights right here. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. Many thanks for your time.